Hey, good morning, everybody. It's about 4 a.m. this Tuesday, and I've had a lot of you reach out to me. You know that I enjoy reading. Last year I read 48 books. I really don't do anything on audiobooks, very little podcast. And so my thing is just actually, reading and books. And you can see my library behind me and whatnot. And many of you had asked and said or suggested, and I appreciate it, 5 books that I would highly suggest. And unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the granddaddy of them all, so to speak. And there's some that these are probably the ones that I have read that haven't been so long since I've read them, okay? And so the thing about it is that I really, there's many others that are, in like my stack that I'm going to go over with you. One of them that, I didn't include right away was Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. That's one of the granddaddies of self-help, get rich, build wealth, all that kind of stuff. And that's a must read. That's a must have in your library. And the one that I don't have a copy of is one that I loaned to somebody, and that is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And basically what it talks about is that when you want something, get an asset that's going to pay for it instead of taking money out of your pocket. We all, for the most part, will go and buy a new truck like I did. And so then what is it that we do? Well, we make adjustments in our income, and we'll say, it's $1,000 a month or $800 a month, $600 a month, whatever it is. And most of us won't ever ask ourselves, well, where was that money to start with? We just make adjustments, and it's priority. We're paying the car payment. We didn't have the car payment, but now we're paying the car payment. And so guess what? It gets paid. Well, if we'd really paid attention to it, we had that money we could have been investing, putting it into a dividend paying stock or saving up for a down payment on a rental property. And then before you know it, we got some things that are starting to pay us money, and even starting a YouTube channel, getting some money coming in, doing that passive income. And granted, you have to, I have to record the video. I have to put it up. Y'all know I don't have any amazing tricks with editing. We just keep it straight redneck and everything. One shot, one take. That's it. Catch me picking my nose. You got me. So, the thing is that, but still, you can do it. Okay. And regardless of how many books you read, that knowledge right there could get somebody ruling the world, make them the best spouse to somebody else, great in sales. But guess what? If they never take the knowledge from what's in that book and apply it, put it out into the world, go forth with it, it's absolutely worthless. So, probably one of my very favorite authors right here, John Maxwell. Fantastic man. He's a pastor, very Christ-centered, very loving with his approach, very, me personally, I am very black and white, cut you off at the knees. A lot of times I do things and then go back because my mind is very black and white, and then I'm having to go back and say, well, I wish I'd done things differently. And, and so there's a lot of compassion and empathy in what he professes, teaches, and whatnot. So this is a great book, and especially if you got employees, okay? Now, the one thing about it is, or one thing to consider is this. Unless you never have interaction with people ever again or another person, you're always going to have to be in some type of relationship. When you walk into a convenience store in the morning, you're in a relationship with everybody in that store. Whether or not you have any conversation is a different story, and that relationship might only last 30 seconds. It might be 45 seconds. You might come back the next day and see that person, and then over, 60 days later, y'all are there at the same time, seeing each other 40, 50 times in a row, and now we're on a first name basis or whatnot. And the reason I say this is for, pay attention to how people react, which leads me into this book right here, The Art of the Pitch. The Art of the Pitch has to do with having to do, as you can imagine, sales, persuasion, presentation, what it is that I'm about, what is it that I'm going to be doing, all of those kind of things. And the thing about it is that regardless, no matter what it is, the number one skill that is the most sought after, that is the most lucrative for a person to master, is human interaction / communication / sales. Okay, just the same as that dealership that I went to this past week, or last week. The first one that I went to, when that guy came out and said, "Well, I don't think it was ethical that you didn't say anything about the radio," the deal stopped right there. And it would have been completely different had the guy come out and said, "Look, man, we got a huge failure on our part, and we now are going to have to modify our training practices, and it's going to be a questionnaire that somebody's going to ask these questions whenever we do a long distance appraisal on a vehicle for trade-in and everything." I am terribly sorry, but what I can't do is rewrite our situation because you're here. You've traveled 250 miles, you're sitting in our dealership. I'm in a bad spot. I would like your help. This is what I'm faced with, okay? What is it that you could see yourself doing that's possible? Okay? 9 times out of 10, when you take responsibility for something and take ownership completely, it was a huge failure on our part, and then you're asking for help. Most people are glad to help, okay? It would have been a whole different interaction between me and that person, as far as me getting up, walking out, and they didn't get a sale, okay? Maybe they're on a cash basis and every car on that lot has no floor plan to it. They're not having to pay interest on that car sitting there. Who knows? But I do know this in business, and I'm not a car guy at all, okay, is that the way business makes money is 2 ways. It keeps money in the account, which means less money going out, and then it gets more money coming in. So if I get rid of a car and I'm not having to pay the juice on it anymore, then I'm starting to save some money. Then if I make a profit, that much better, But here's the other thing is that people don't teach this, is what is the lifetime value of a customer? There's times that I've taken a loss just to get my foot in the door because I know what it takes to get the first interaction, the first sale, the first business, the first job with somebody. It's like a nuclear explosion. You have to make that happen, and unfortunately, people don't talk about how hard that is. But once you get it, people are like 20 times more likely to do somebody that they've had a good experience with. Because why? Because you made them feel good, okay? People do not continue to do business with people that made them feel bad. So it becomes a situation where now we've got our foot in the door. Now I'll start trying to make some money, as opposed to the first time I wasn't worried about the transaction. And see, so many businesses today are just about that transaction because they're not looking to the future. There's a possibility I could have referred 5, 10, 15 people that bought cars to that dealership. Do you think that I will? Hell to the no! It ain't happening, okay? So just a word to the wise. Think about things in the long term, okay? Now, one of the greats, and if you're not following him and not watching his videos, Grant Cardone, I highly suggest it. This book right here, phenomenal book, 10X. Think big, go big, all that kind of stuff. It's a fantastic book. It's a good read. Every book that I've read that he has, that's been authored by him, has been fantastic. They're not not real dry or anything. They keep you engaged and whatnot. Highly recommend anything by Grant Cardone, especially that, because that's one of those things where, regardless of your business, you're a gutter cleaner, car detailer, you do lawn maintenance, whatever it is, you can learn something from that book to increase your business, increase your bottom line. One of the granddaddies, Atomic Habits. You meet everybody, okay? You will only be as successful as your habits will allow you. regardless of how good you are at math, if you won't get out of bed every day at the same time to perform, it ain't gonna happen, okay? And regardless of how good you are as a painter, you know, if you, for lack of better words, and there's some trades or professions that seem to have a lot of flakiness and ego to it, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I got friends of mine that are tattooists. Most of them are not good business people, okay? It's just a fact. It's a very high-paying profession, and it's a low point of entry. And what I mean is that it costs very little to get set up to start doing tattoos, okay? If you got your machine, your rig, and everything, you know, and here in Pensacola, there's a god-awful amount of tattoo shops. Most of them have an empty booth, and so they do a deal where, you know, the shop is getting a commission off of every tattoo, or somebody can walk in there and say, hey, you know, what's your booth rent? And then rent the booth. And then it's their job to perform as far as, you know, getting the business, and whatever they bring in, they get to keep minus whatever the booth rent is. A lot of times they're very, hairdressers are the same way, artists are the same way, but they're kind of on the flaky side, and a lot of them are very egotistical in the sense that their feelings get hurt real, and I'm just going to take my stuff and go somewhere else and everything. Well, and boom, and then it's like, you know, next week they're making $2-3 grand again and everything. But what they don't understand is that every time that you move, and then your customer that got a tattoo there 6 months ago and walks in hoping to see you, you're not there. So somebody else gets that tattoo, somebody else gets that sale. Very few of them create a customer list, in the sense that, you know, just ask yourself, how many times have you gone to a tattoo shop and they took all your information, and then you start getting their emails marketing regularly, or, you know, SMS on your telephone, you know? A lot of them just don't do that kind of stuff and everything. And again, you know, I have people that are close to me that are in every one of those that I described that I love dearly. It's not a bad person judgment call like that. It's what I've seen. And the thing about it is that, and a lot of times it's the same way with carpenters. There'll be a craftsman that's just, you know, unbelievably good at what they do. Beautiful, able to make cabinets, furniture. It's absolutely gorgeous. Not a business person at all. You know, doesn't have the processes in place. And it's like, well, where are you? Oh, well, you know, my truck broke down and everything like that. You know, one of my things is that I'm not that good at, you know, making something beautiful. So what I have to do is compensate, and that I was one of the very first people that I ever knew that had 2 vehicles, you know. So if mine ever broke down, within 2 hours, I'm back going again. And that's huge, because like in my industry, in my area, most people only got 1 vehicle. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, yeah, man, I've been broke down for a week and a half, 2 weeks, got to get a new motor and everything. Haven't been able to make any money or anything like that. And for $3,000-$4,000, you just bought an insurance policy that your business, your ability to make money will never stop due to a vehicle. Sounds like a very small price to pay for me, to make sure the money keeps coming in. So the big thing, learning the skill of dealing with people, okay? And this right here, especially fellas, if you're married, ladies, if you're married, you got a significant other, and you keep scratching your head, why in the hell does he do that? Why is he like that? Why ain't he like this and everything? Anything from John Gray having to do with the Mars and Venus series, I highly, highly recommend reading it. The thing about it is that you're going to gain some insight. When I did, you know, and I read the first one probably 20, 25 years ago, I was like, oh, okay, that's why she does that. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. Okay. And the thing about it is that he puts things into words that he was like one of the first people to ever speak about relationships in that manner that gained widespread notoriety, okay? And it's not often that things are put in a manner that the layman, the common person, is able to, one, understand, but then have it in a meaning that they can put forth and go back to the universe with it and put it into action, okay? Now, somebody's going to say, well, I'm single, I ain't never getting hooked up or anything like that. I ain't got to do that. Yes, you do. You're going to interact with people, okay? This just ain't for people that are, together in a relationship, okay? This is for that person that you're at the convenience store with. This is for that, co-worker that you might be having some trouble getting along with and everything. And then pay attention to what the book says, and then pay attention to what they do. And you might find that thing that unlocks it, that all of a sudden it's like, hey, that person's not so bad. Hey, that person changed their behavior. It was me that was doing something that I had no idea that I needed to change, and it caused a change in that person. They were acting out of a defense or something to that effect. The more that we can understand about human nature, the better off we're going to be, the better that our skills are going to be. And it was like last night, I was talking to a guy, and this guy's long-winded. He'll sit there and tell you, take 20 minutes to tell you I walked out the door and went into the garage. And I'm like, come on, man, you got to move it along and everything. Well, I'll call you back when, you got more time and everything like that. And what I was trying to do was just the facts, man. Give him the dragnet. Just the facts. And, because I'm real big on, I only have 168 hours in every week, and I want every one of them to count. So here's the thing is that, just making them, giving that person that time of day, and I realized immediately what I was doing. I was cutting him off at the knees. He wasn't feeling validated because of not being able to talk. And so I had to stop, and I just let him ramble. Phone call lasted an extra 5 minutes, but I had the ability to do business with that person. And more than likely at some point, they're going to put money in my pocket. And if you're in business and you're not worried about the money coming in your pocket, you might want to check on why you're doing it. Now, if you've already made it big and now you're just into philanthropy, I understand that. I'm not there yet. I'm not the Red Cross. Hopefully one day I will be. So there you have it. Those are 5 books for you. And hope you have a fantastic day. If you need me, you want any of my time, there's an email in the description. You can contact me to get 15 minutes of my time for free. Send me your number. Make sure you include your number, and I will give you a call. Have a wonderful day.